So my message is quite simple. I don't believe that there are any extraordinary people, right? I think that there's people who make extraordinary decisions. See, this is a very important distinction because people who lead extraordinary lives are not extraordinary themselves, but their decisions are. So, like some people decide to move, whereas other people just decide to remain where they grew up. There's people who like to challenge themselves and people who like to stay in their comfort zone. And there's people who, for 4 years, maybe more, day after day, just go to the same classroom, sit down, and listen to what a teacher has to say. Whereas others find ways to challenge and question the academic path and find other ways to discover what life has in store for them. I would say, like in my second year of college, maybe the first one, I started making extraordinary decisions. Until then, seriously, I had like 0 goals. I was quite lost in life. I didn't think I could achieve that much, to be honest. I didn't have the experience. My family is definitely not rich, and I had like no social skills. Seriously. But I did have determination. I had determination, and I had 3 really good friends. And that was enough. Because the 4 of us together started a movement that changed our lives and then inspired many more students to do something similar but yet different, which is making extraordinary decisions while at university. So you might be wondering, how is that possible, right? For example, I started companies at university. How is that even possible without dying, trying to do such a difficult thing? Well, let's think about it for a second, okay? So these are, in my opinion, top reasons why people would not start a company. Okay, so to begin with, they might feel that they don't have a capable team. That's reasonable, I think. They lack space or equipment. Equipment can be very important in some spaces. Bureaucracy can become a little bit too much. I definitely struggled with this. And, well, funding. Everybody says that funding is so important, right? Like money, So turns out that your university has a really smart solution, a great solution for each one of these problems. So you don't have a capable team? Well, just look around. Or just take a stroll to your campus, to another faculty. You would find a mathematician, you can find a psychologist, a chemist, you name it. And, okay, they may not be experts, but they have teachers that surely are experts, and they'd be happy to help. So, team solved. Then, space, equipment, well, universities have tons of this. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised by the amount of resources that your university has. In some cases, underused, just for classes, but it's all there for the taking if you ask for it. I borrowed cameras, I used laboratories, I had an office space for free. It's really yours there for the taking if you go ahead and ask for it. And bureaucracy, well, it is overwhelming, but in Europe, we have something that not so many people know about, which is junior companies, or TEDxUNebrija. What this is technically an association. So you don't have to go through the whole process of, constituting a sociedad limitada or a limited liability company. You can just go to the registry, put 0 money up front, and start to operate. So makes everything that much easier. And, well, if you still feel that funding is a problem, then the problem is you. Because if talent is free, equipment and resources are free, and, of course, you have all the bureaucracy sorted out for you, you don't really need the funding. I don't want to go in this talk about all the junior company process and all that. But just so that you know, you can Google it. Just Google TEDxUNebrija, and there's everything you need to know is there. I also wrote this handbook while I was doing it that helped other students then after me, and we've all improved it with generations. And this, we call it the WALP handbook, and contains all the information that you need. How to get the university to hand you an office, how to borrow laboratories, how to constitute a junior company. The point is, the bottom line is that if I could do it, anyone can do it. It's totally doable for any student. I want you to please take a look at this chart. It's a calendar, but I want you to think of it as a cycle. It's a cycle, the WALP cycle, that is very much aligned with the academic calendar. So this is how we organized our entrepreneurial activity so that it was aligned with what we were doing in college, so we could start companies, lead a revolution, and yet pass exams. So here's how it goes. In June, you can set up a recruiting event. So you do an open call and invite all students that are willing to do something out of the ordinary, people who want some real-life experience. So what you do is you do this event, then you ask them to send you their info, you interview them, and you pick a few. You pick 10. Why not? Then summer happens. Summer's terrible. But after summer, in September, then the team you recruited, you know, it's possibly more 10, but they're ready to begin the entrepreneurial activity. So at this stage, you start a team building process. This is a really important process because depending on how you build the team, everything can work or can like go terribly. So the team building process is very important, especially because it's when you set your goals, your personal goals and the team's goals all together. Then gradually, you start fully focusing on developing projects. This is working. So you spend 6 months working, doing your thing, whatever that might be. And this is a roller coaster of real life experience. It's unbelievably insightful, especially for a university student. So when the academic year ends, the team invests all the profit into, well, we call it a learning journey, which is you think about somewhere you can go to broaden your horizons. In my case, we went to India and then we went to Silicon Valley. But it's just a way of, you know, making a meaningful goal out of the money you've made with your work. And, well, you kind of repeat this cycle year by year. Sometimes you recruit a new team. You repeat it until you feel that you are ready to start your own like serious company, to pursue a startup, to think about more scalable stuff. I want to share with you a couple of tools that are also included in the WALP handbook that will help you making decisions and setting your own goals. So the first one is the learning pledge. What is a learning pledge? So a learning pledge is a tool so that each person can set up their own goals, and then you can just put all together with your team and set up team goals. So there's 6 questions. You have, where do I come from, right? What is my background? Then, where am I now? What is my context? You know, let's establish that. Then it goes, you know, it gets more tricky. So where do I want to be by the end of the year, by the end of this cycle? Your goals, your objectives. Then you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to commit? This is very important. Then you think about the strategy. How will you get there? You need to, you know, be clear about that. And finally, how will I know that I have arrived? What are the indicators? This is things that, you know, we have not really been trained at school to do. No one teaches us to set up our own goals. and even less to pursue actionable indicators. So it's really important, for example, the question about the indicators. Some people say that, they want to be strong. Well, how many kilos do you want to lift? You want to be rich. Well, how much money do you want to have in your bank after taxes? Be very specific. Or, well, this is all messed up, but if you want to be happy, what does that mean to you? Does it mean waking up without an alarm clock? Does it mean having 7 children? You need to think about that. So the other one is, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to commit to the pursuit of these goals? This is very important, especially when working in a team, when people may have different expectations. So talking about this at the very beginning lays a really strong base for the rest of what's going to happen in the year. Then, as I said, you kind of think about all of those. You write them down, take your time, and then you do a group session with your team, and you establish your team goals. Doing this, it is difficult the first time. That is why you need to do it. I've done countless learning pledges, and they're always surprisingly insightful. So I will advise you to do one, just for the fun of it. Okay. Then there is this tool that is also helpful. It's also included in the handbook. It's helpful when you want to establish goals, because it's very possible that you may overlook some areas. If you're very focused on the business development part, you may overlook something to do with your network of contacts, or something to do with how you work in a team. So this tool is really good to just grab some post-its and think about what you want to accomplish. I wanted to tell you that starting companies at university is not a crazy idea. It's very likely that your computer has been developed by 2 guys that started it when they were in college. It's very likely, or at least I hope, that you may like this talk in a network done by just a dude in college. And then might be searched for in an engine, well, now a conglomerate, built by 2 students while they were at college. But the key insight that I learned when starting these kind of companies that started in college, is that they never started doing the same thing that then made them successful. And this is very important. They got together to do stuff, and then after some time, they came up with the good ideas. In the case of Apple, they were like acting as clowns in birthday parties. I mean, that was their junior company. So a pattern that I found in this kind of companies is that the way they focus their work is divided into 3 stages. Okay? So here's a progression. So the typical college startup starts by offering services, maybe to local businesses. Could be like developing a website or an app, or I don't know, whatever you do. And there's a hammer and nails here, because there's a sentence that says, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you will think that every problem is a nail. So this is the problem here. So if you're studying psychology, you think that you have to do psychology, and everything is psychology. If you do advertising, well, let's do advertising. If you do like a computer major, you're like focusing on computers. So you have that kind of problem. But as the team starts to develop projects for other companies, they start gathering confidence. And beautiful things start to happen here, because they start wondering, could I start a project all by myself? Just have an idea and make it happen without developing a service for someone who has their own dream, their own product. And there's a stage that is tough, but the junior company starts like toying with this kind of ideas. So they still keep doing work for all the companies, services, all the obvious stuff, but then they start doing more of the entrepreneurial stuff, you may say, like your own projects. And at some point, inevitably, you start getting acquainted with the idea of scalability. You start, your vision of business and life in general becomes so much more elaborate that you start making right decisions. And this is the point where entrepreneurs are able to identify business opportunities that are really worth it, that are scalable, that become good startups, become the Googles, the Apples, or the Facebooks, among others. So that is the key here, that the purpose of creating a company in university is not creating a company in university. It's to begin your process of making extraordinary decisions. It's to tell to yourself and to the world that you are ready to encounter whatever life has for you. So you just need to have the determination, and then the ideas follow. You get together, build a team, and then ideas follow. And before just finishing, I would like to, this is a sentence I like a lot, that we know nothing about the future except that it's built with actions of the present. So living an extraordinary life means making extraordinary decisions. But don't wait until the right time, because the right time is always now. Thank you so much.